Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of The Kevin Moore Show. Now just before we start, I need to ask your help. I'm heading back to the USA end of this month in March to refilm parts of my two documentaries I'm working on. One is the Richard Baldwin documentary and another is my channeling documentary. Now I just need help in covering some travel expenses as both documentaries will be released on this YouTube channel. So to help, just go to www.theisnn to donate. Okay, so today's guest is Prema Lee Gurreri. Now, Prema is committed to creating a world where everyone is empowered to live on purpose in a way that's aligned with their high value gifts and their birthright of true prosperity. Now, Prema is a leading Vedic astrologer, soul advisor, business consultant, and energy practitioner with more than 25 years of experience, and also the author of the book, Your Sacred Wealth Code, Unlocking Your Soul's Blueprint for Purpose and Prosperity. Now, she empowers leaders, entrepreneurs, visionaries, and change agents to take inspired action and unlock their sacred wealth code. Now, she joins me to discuss her work, and she'll also give me a sacred wealth code reading towards the end of this interview. So, Prema Lee Gurreri, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
It's great to have you on. So just to begin with, Prema, just tell us about the Sacred Wealth Code and what that is.
So your Sacred Wealth Code within your soul blueprint, which I look at through the art and science of Vedic astrology, and there's lots of different ways to connect into someone's soul blueprint. And it's really the intersection of where your purpose and your prosperity actually intersect. And this is based on a scientific principle within Vedic astrology, but at this junction is where we find your highest value gifts. And after years of my intuitive work, my work as a yoga teacher and a coach, a counselor, an energy healer, and with Vedic astrology, people are always coming like, okay, Prema, like, what's my purpose and where's the money? And as I really was looking at this for over years, I saw that not only is this junction between purpose and prosperity tell us a lot about, okay, what's your purpose and how you could create wealth for yourself, but it really points to what your highest value gifts are. And when you really engage and use those highest value gifts, not the things you're good at, but the things that you're inherently really are your divine gifts, that this intersects you with your purpose so you've got that deeper meaning and the world is able to see you and recognize you for your true brilliance.
Okay. And what led you to do this? What's your true brilliance in a sense? What is your purpose that you've discovered in this part of your life right now?
So my underlying purpose of everything I'm here on the planet to do is to live from the inside out and to help other people do that as well. And so that purpose gets expressed in a lot of different ways. So your Sacred Wealth Code, the book, the Oracle cards, the journal is one of the ways that I'm helping people to live from the inside out. So that's that core of that. And, there's a story on how I discovered that if you want to hear that. But, there's so much coming at us in the outer world and so much that we are programming coming at us. Are we even living our own path in our own life? Well, we need to be able to tune in and really know ourselves deeply, be able to hear that voice within or feel it, because everybody's wired up differently. And I believe that we're all connected to our own soul blueprint if we just can quiet down a little bit and have some tools to connect in with our true path.
So let's just start this again from scratch so that I've got this right, what you're doing here. So when someone opens this book or comes across your website or whatever it is that you're going to help them with, or whatever they're going to come across your material with, what is it? What kind of people are you attracting with your work to begin with, actually, before I get into what is it they're going to transform in themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with entrepreneurs, visionaries, change agents, leaders, people who want to connect with what it is they're really here to do, what's the purpose or the next purpose. And what I help them to do is, again, connect with I call them your highest value gifts, the things that their own brilliance, so that they can do what they love, be who they are, and actually have a wealthy life in the midst of that. And let's face it, everybody's very different on what it is that true wealth, what that is for them. But I'm working with people who are change makers on the planet.
Okay, so what are some of the common issues people are coming to you with then? And how is that person, how quickly is that person transformed from taking your process as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So people are coming to me typically with, uh, I have a sense of what I should be doing, and but I'm not making the money or creating. It's not always about money, or I'm not creating the wealth that I want to. I'm creating a lot of wealth, but I have no meaning, and I know this isn't my purpose, so I feel like I'm selling my soul. That's another one. I'm not sure what my gifts are. I feel like I've got two or three things here, and so they don't have enough focus to move forward in one direction. And it's time for me to get out of this career, and I have this burning thing inside me. And sometimes it's to write a book or create a foundation, but it's that that purpose, sort of deeper meaning in life. And like for instance, one of my clients, Kiki, when she came to me, she had been working in corporate in HR for a long time, making a good salary, and she had stepped out of that a couple of years, maybe 3 years before we met each other. And in that time, she was trying to get her own business going, but she was starting it in one direction and then another direction, and she was living off of her savings, and she was starting to get a little nervous about that. She read the book and contacted me immediately for a Sacred Wealth Code reading, because I do readings on all of this, and readings in general as well. But at that point, she resonated with the work, and when she found out what her high value gifts are, she's and we created a plan around who she's really here to serve. And she's really here to get behind CEOs and leaders in their own business and help really bring their vision throughout their whole company, and not just as this HR person. So within a relatively short period of time, within the first 8 months of working together, she broke six figures in her income. And again, it's not all about money, but she had a deep satisfaction, and still does, and is continuing to evolve her company and her work. But she, again, is working with kind of making kings out of CEOs, really helping them to step into their vision, to get their vision throughout their whole company, but also to meet their financial goals, but put the systems in place and the people in place within the company. Because as we know, as entrepreneurs, and a lot of CEOs can get this way too, where they know what they need to do, but they forget that it takes a team, and it takes a team for all of us. So that's just one example of someone that I've worked with.
Okay, and obviously this involves, I think you mentioned there, Vedic astrology as well. Where does the Vedic astrology come into your wealth code?
Yeah. So in Vedic astrology, it's a science, and it, just so everyone knows, it comes from the Vedas. It comes from the Indian tradition. It's the Eastern astrology. It's been around for over 6,000 years and practiced very readily in all aspects of life. And it's come to the West and gained some popularity here. It's a deep study. With Vedic astrology, there is a scientific principle. We have several of them. We can look at relationship, many things in life, but where we look at what we call dana yogas. And this is the place where we look for wealth. And wealth is not just money again. And the definition of wealth that I subscribe to is everything we need to fulfill our purpose. What do we need to fulfill our purpose? And for some people, that may be enough money to have a nice home and send their kids to school, and then have the resources to, have a great community and feel like they've got meaning. For other people, they may have this big mission and movement in the world that's going to take more resources. And so it's where your purpose and your prosperity planets intersect, or without geeking out on you, or how they are placed. And in that, again, it's like the intersection of, if you imagine purpose is a road and prosperity is a road, and at this intersection is where we find our sacred wealth code. And this is our highest value gifts. Now, when we're using our gifts, when we're in our gifts, and you know that you're doing some changes in your life now. You've done lots of different things. You know when your gifts are pulling you forward, and when the world is responding to that, or when maybe it's time to shift and use another gift. And we go through different cycles in life. But with Vedic astrology, also that principle of purpose and prosperity, it's actually called Dana Yoga, where that comes together, is where we look for wealth that will be meaningful to someone. And that is including spiritual wealth, and that's why I call it sacred wealth. It's not just, money is just a form of energy, and a lot of things money is indicative of a lot of things in our lives, in our culture, just because it's a common currency of exchange.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, I've got a few questions here. I'm just going to reel off,
Please.
right, and then we'll get into a sort of free flow conversation. But just for the audience, this might be helpful as well. So, how can someone's wealth code show up in his or her daily life?
So your wealth code is going to show up for you as um, the again, your highest value gifts, the things that, so let's, for instance, maybe you're someone who is, let's just say you're a computer programmer, or maybe you're working in the health and fitness industry. But, you've got, throughout your day, there's a part of you that's a little bit dissatisfied. And maybe you've got these really great skills in audiovisual work, or, there's this part of you as an artist that wants to come through. And that's going to keep knocking on the door, and that's going to keep pulling at you in a way, because it is it's part of your highest value gifts. That's one of the ways. Another way that it would show up for you is when you are doing what you love to do and you feel it. You feel like you are in that gift. And in fact, I always say to most people, what would you do all day long if it didn't matter, if you had all the money in the world, you had all the wealth in the world, and it didn't matter if you created any, what would you do all day long? And people who are purpose-driven people tend to, it's not just going to be laying on the beach. Maybe there's something they want to create, or communities, or maybe it is art or music or whatever it might be, or building a certain company if they didn't have to rely on that. And that's a lot of the ways that your wealth code will show up. It'll show up by that sort of deeper meaning, kind of burning desire, either showing you're dissatisfied and pulling you in a different direction, or showing you, like here it is. Here's really what you're here to give and here to meant for.
Okay. And what are the three things that everyone should know about their sacred wealth code as well?
I'm going to fill in one little gap that we haven't touched on around your sacred wealth code that'll help me answer that. So as I was helping people understand what their high value gifts are, after a while with this body of work, what also dropped in is a body of archetypes. Now, archetypes are a soul language. I can say to you, teacher, visionary, engineer, and there's a whole story that opens up that's unique to you and unique to me and anybody else listening in. Archetypal language comes in through the soul, comes in through a different, it doesn't just hit the left brain, let's put it that way. And I was grateful because all the planets in Vedic astrology all have mythology that go along with them. But I am living in the Western world, and I do translate things into a practical English, Western type of a way. So when the archetypes came in, it was wonderful because now I could give people their archetypes. And in the book and the cards, you have archetypes that have a description of what their high value gifts are and the shadow side, and a way for people to connect in with their sacred wealth code very readily, whether they're going to pick a card from the deck or read the book and understand what their wealth code is, or come to me for a reading. So the three things that everyone should know about their sacred wealth code is that your sacred wealth code really holds the best of you, like some of the highest aspirations of yourself that are completely and totally attainable. That it's here to support you, and it is a soul journey, so that it's not a straight line. It's a circuitous journey. And if you're willing to follow the path, you're going to pick up a lot of pieces of yourself along the way, because, as I said, there is a shadow side, and a lot of us are stuck in our beliefs and our programming and our barriers and our blocks. And I address that, and I do a lot of energy clearing with people and provide tools for that, to clear that shadow side. So sometimes when you are keep coming face to face with something that's not working, that's actually the shadow side of your wealth code. So that's another piece that's important to know. And the third thing that would be really useful for you to know about your sacred wealth code is that you are incredibly gifted. Every one of us is incredibly gifted in our own unique ways, and that your sacred wealth code holds those gifts. And if you are willing to interact with your gifts, you are on that path to purpose and prosperity. You're living at that intersection of your sacred wealth code. Literally, by using your gifts, you are connected to your purpose, and you are connected to what your interpretation is of wealth in the world.
Okay, okay. And I believe that a person's sacred wealth code is made up of four pillars and their sacred wealth.
It is. So there's four pillars that are useful to understand about your wealth in general. The first part of the process, if you go through the book or any of my work at the Sacred Wealth Code Journey, is we always find out what your wealth dream is. Because a lot of people believe they want something, but they don't know exactly why they want it. And when we really dig down and you understand what it is that you actually want to create that's wealth, and then we go to the next step, which is, why do you want that wealth? That's really the first pillar. What's the purpose for the wealth that you want to create in the world? And usually people haven't thought through, a lot of people have not thought through this far enough because we're caught up in the day-to-day when it comes to wealth. But given the space to really dig deep, we can find out what that purpose is. And that's the first pillar of wealth. And think again, like I talked about before, purpose is like this road to the intersection, of purpose and prosperity. So purpose is key. The second pillar of wealth is passion. And why passion? Because we need fuel for the purpose. And a lot of people will say, and there's a lot of teaching and books out there, follow your passion. Well, that's really wonderful, Kevin, if you know what the heck your passion is. But I look at it differently. I look at passion as being the fuel. So for instance, if you were into surfing or rock climbing or playing music or lifting weights, whatever it was that engaged your passion, it does not have to be directly related to how you're creating wealth, but you must engage in it regularly so you are alive. Passion is it's a soul language as well, and it is going to inspire and enliven you to have the juice in yourself and your life to actually interact with your sacred wealth code and be connected to your purpose. The third pillar is your greatest gifts. And I've mentioned your greatest gifts several times. In that part of the book and the teaching in the Sacred Wealth Journey, which is a program I have, we go deep into helping you understand inherently what are some of your highest value gifts. Maybe things that you did as a child or never fully got to pursue, or the things you do on the sideline, or a lot of times I find people have completely forgotten what what some of their things that they were so interested in as they were younger. And then the fourth pillar of wealth is, I call it the unexpected gateway to wealth, and that is your greatest challenges. And as I was talking about the shadow before, when we really look into our greatest challenges, whether we're facing that right now or we look back at some of our greatest challenges, that is really what's like the door or the block to some of our greatest gifts. Again, it's that shadow side of some of the archetypes. And when we're willing to lean into that challenge and find and break through what's holding us back, we get to reclaim that gift and the challenge. Because everyone could look back and say, oh, I can see a blessing in that now. But when you can see the challenges coming at you and go, okay, I know there's a blessing in there. I'm going to lean in. I'm going to find out what it is. That's a blocked part of myself that wants to break out of that and step more fully into me.
Absolutely. And, I think in your book as well, you talk about, you talk in the sense that if you could share just one big truth with every entrepreneur in the world, what would that be as well?
So all the answers are inside of you. You may need help unlocking them, and you may need help connecting with them, but your soul already knows where you need to go, whether that's in business, whether that's in relationship. But we're talking about entrepreneurs right now who I work a lot with, and especially through my business academy. But when you learn to tune in and connect with what is that true voice, or be able to feel what's right and what's your path and what's not your path, and especially for the entrepreneur, because so much is coming at you. You should market this way. This is how you need to advertise. Oh, you've got to do this. You got to have your website this way. But in truth, everyone has their own unique path, and your soul knows. So I teach people a way to drop into their hearts, get answers very quickly, know what is resonantly theirs and what's not, so that they can put their blinders on and stay on their own path.
Okay. Well, thank you for that so far. That's great. And I think I think one of the things as well that I've got to say here, I think, is that whatever it is you're going to choose to do, obviously, it's not instantaneous. It's going to take a long time to build up that business that you're going to work on. Overnight success just does not exist. So I think unless you're prepared to put a lot of effort into what you're going to do, it's just not going to work.
Well, yes, and there's the difference between just effort and just motivation, for instance, and alignment and inspiration.
Yeah, the
So you're
passion.
absolutely right. And you're absolutely right because it's not an overnight thing, but if it's really truly your path, it's not supposed to be overnight. It's something that you engage in and that you fall in love with, and that it yes, it challenges you. Yes, it hopefully it brings you joy as well. I mean, I've been in an entrepreneur for over 25 years, almost 30 years now, and it's been quite a path, and it's led me in different ways. And I can look back and say how living from the inside out has always been, whether I had my yoga and healing art center years ago or whether I was in this body of work, and even in this, I'm one-on-one counseling people in their business and helping them break through their blocks and barriers. But there is, it does take commitment, and if you are really in tune, aligned, and committed to what it is that not only you want to bring forward in a business, but why? What's that purpose in that? Because that's always going to pull you forward. It's always going to pull you forward. And you might think you start your business, in one capacity, and then you find out, like uh, one of my clients, she and I work with men as well, but she started her she was a lawyer for many years, and then she turned life coach, and she was helping people with everything, and that really wasn't working for her because she wasn't as focused as she needed to be. So as we started to work together and we started to hone in for her, and she started to get through some of her blocks and barriers, what she realized is she was really here to help women very much like herself, very strong women, more on that masculine side, to open up, and she calls them alphas, to open up more. And I helped her open up her feminine side because I'm very passionate about that part of the work. And she was able to come in and help them to have better relationships because their relationships tend to fall apart because they're too much in that masculine side. So it is a journey, but if you are connected to the purpose in it, however it unfolds for you is going to be interesting, and you're going to see it as part of the journey instead of I need to get from A to B and then I'm done.
I think sometimes you can have multiple things that you might want to, be pulled to want to do.
I agree.
Yeah. But is that practical?
Well, yes and no. So, and also when I look at someone's soul blueprint, everybody's wired up differently, Kevin. So, for instance, Mercury is my ruling planet, which is in the archetypal system of the Sacred Wealth Code, happens to be the communicator, the messenger, and the merchant. Mine is a messenger because of the way it's wired up. Mercury people tend to need to spin three plates. And in fact, even this body of work has it's got the book and cards, and it's got a journal. I'll get too bored with only doing exactly one thing. So I have three different programs. But there is an underlying purpose that's the same. Some people, those people who they go to school and they're a doctor and they do that their whole life. Well, they may have, they may be wired up to have that kind of a focus. We're all really different. But if we don't have enough, like a floodlight compared to a laser beam, if we don't have enough focus on something, we can't really move it forward. So for all of us, we can tell, and I help people understand, where's your bandwidth? I know if I'm doing more than three things, I'm over my bandwidth, and I don't see things moving forward. And even with that, I sometimes have to put all my energy. When I was writing my book, I was still working with clients and running programs, but the rest of my energy, I had to focus on the book, or it would have never gotten done and come forward. So yes, but you can tell when you're kind of pulled apart, pulled from one or the other, or if the things you're working on sort of have a commonality, a common goal. Does that make sense? And is that your experience?
Yeah, you mean that they're not too left field. It's not like, you're doing one thing and it's doing something totally opposite that's not really in the same field, in a sense. Yeah, yeah. Has it been my experience? Yes, 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 I think. But I mean, everyone's on a different path, aren't they, in some respects?
Yeah.
But I think a lot has changed as well. I mean, I listen to, I said this on a previous interview, I listen to a lot of Gary Vaynerchuk right now.
Mhm.
And you probably heard of him or come
I
across
know who
him.
Gary is. Yeah.
Yeah. And what that guy's almost like he's channeling when he's sort of talking to people, and what I mean, his thing is really about, it's all about, well, content, isn't it? And and it's all about seeing things through, living in your passion, your purpose. Just really what you're saying as well. Not taking anything away from you and making Gary sound better, but I'm just, I hear it from different people in different ways. That's I think we all do, don't we, in a sense?
And that's
And
a beautiful thing. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I wouldn't say it's been an easy journey for me. Do you know what I mean?
Not to me either. It hasn't been easy.
No, 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 no. And um, living your passion, yeah. Well, that's another part of it, isn't it? Is if you had all the money, like you said, or you had enough to keep coming in to keep you going, what would be your drive? Would it be to want to make more money, just money? Would it be
See,
to?
I find that most people don't. Let me ask you that. If would you, if you had everything, would you, is money itself enough of a purpose? I find for myself it's not, and I find for most of my clients that money in itself isn't. There has to be the, like, what is that money even for? There has to be that, the purpose has to keep going through. That's what my experience is in working with people and myself. What about you?
Um, yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, there's been times in my life where I've, just the money's fine, and then other times where it's like, no, let's give the opposite a go. Let's go with purpose. And I think it's definitely more fun trying to do something with purpose. But I think for some people there's always that block that, will it really make money? Can you
Okay, but
really?
that's the thing. That's the thing right there.
And
That's your sacred wealth code. It's like, but what if you can have it both? Because Kevin, it's absolutely possible to have it both.
I was gonna just say that. Yeah,
So,
yeah. You took the words out of my mouth. Yeah, absolutely. I do think that there's some truth in, with a world as big as it is, and it's a big world out there. I think that's very possible. Um, I think it's, it is not an easy thing sometimes to really find that which really you want to do. And I think, maybe there is in some people's lives times when you're supposed to not be doing what you're meant to be doing and meant to be doing something else. Or maybe you can go off cue and, what was a life plan, you've gone completely off script because you can do what the effing hell you want in this reality. There's many reasons, isn't there? For sometimes, I think the only person that you can really justify that to is yourself, isn't it? Of why, if your life's not the way you want it, you can change it, and it doesn't take too long to make some changes. You can change it.
and that as you were talking, as sometimes you're meant to be like off, I call it kind of, I say you're always on the path, but sometimes you could be off in the weeds on the side, but there's probably a part of yourself you need to come face to face with or pick up. And so it isn't just always a straight line. Okay. And that's why, again, like one of the pillars is your greatest gifts and your challenges. I think that one of the things that is resonating for you with what Gary is saying, and I'm very much in alignment with that, is see things through, because especially in our culture, there's, things are fast paced, immediate gratification, but we really rob ourselves of experience, possibilities, how we can even serve and help others by not seeing that idea all the way through. And we learn a lot in the process. And even if you see it all the way through, I did this with my yoga center. I had a beautiful, big healing arts and yoga center. I was training teachers, created a great community. It was a little ahead of its time, really high overhead. Long story short, I ended up closing the center after 5 years after trying many things. And it was a six-figure business. There just wasn't enough coming to me. And I could also feel that I was being pulled in a different direction. But am I I'm grateful that I went through that whole experience, even though I so-called lost a lot, on a financial level. But within a few months, I was able to turn things around when I really tuned into what my blocks were and this body of work, and shifted that around and started to offer in a different way, offer my gifts in a different way. That
Hmm.
shifted around in a very short period of time. So I knew that I was, when you're really feeling blocked, sometimes you have to go through that so that you do get the gifts that are locked up in those blocks, and so that you can get on a smoother road, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. I think this type of interview really triggers me. I don't know why, because I think it's because maybe um, the path is not difficult, but I just don't think I'm able to compare myself to what other people have done. You know, I think I would be doing myself a bit of a disservice there. I think, uh, yeah, I mean, I'm probably like a few other people are out there right now. I'm not too sure where I'm going with everything. Do you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
not at all. And
I, we're, I this is
I want to be, but I'm probably fed up with trying to find. If someone said to me, "Why are you doing what you're doing right now?" With some of the other things that I'm doing, I'd be like, "I don't know. Don't ask me. It's just what I want to do right now. But I don't really know why I'm doing it. Guess it's a little bit fun. I guess it's something that I feel pulled to, but I don't. I just can't answer those questions. And I remember someone saying to me the other day, "Well, if you can't answer it, maybe that's the best place to be." I was like, "Yeah, probably."
And sometimes you're in that what I call like the in between zone. And in fact, when I'm looking at a soul blueprint, when I'm looking at a Vedic astrology chart, and sometimes I'm looking at the whole picture, not just at your sacred wealth code. I do that quite a bit, and with my clients, I do that. We actually do that over usually a year's period of time, because it's not just understanding the inside, it's also breaking through the blocks and barriers, putting practical action, whatever it is that you're creating. But sometimes, Kevin, you're actually, when I look at it from a soul level, you're in a time where things are a little foggy, they're a little cloudy, and there's a reason for that on a soul level. One of the reasons is so that you are um,
It's okay. I can cut that out. It's okay.
one of the reasons that that happens on a soul level is because there's parts of you that are shifting and changing. And so if we're a little bit in the foggy zone, we're just going to maybe not dig into something too deep. And all the choices may not be apparent yet. That's just the way the timing is. So it's good to kind of explore around a bit, and then the clarity comes after that. So, it's not always that we're necessarily on this super clear clarity highway.
No.
And that's why continuing to move forward with and engaging with whatever's presenting, if it's not soul sucking, is useful, because it is going to help you get clear along the way.
Yes. That's for sure. Um, Yeah, yep. And when things aren't unfolding the way you want, or when things like are just not happening quick enough, there's probably a bigger reason for that. Do you know what I mean? I mean, if I was to say, well, why hasn't my channeling documentary come out right now? Well, I'm doing an interview with you, and I can't do the interview and edit that at the same time, but really, to keep my channel going, I've had to keep doing these interviews. Yet it's if I didn't do them, I'd be doing my channeling doc. Yet it's just a catch 22, and I give up. I just get to the point where I'm like, whatever, whatever, you know um and it will come out when it comes out and when it's meant to be. And if it's not, well, it'll take longer, won't it? So
I totally, completely understand and relate with you. And, there's things because I'm an intuitive, I can see like the timelines of things too. And I'll look at that through Vedic astrology. And if you can surrender to the timing that is presenting,
oh,
I have
I
a couple of
do.
projects too
I
that are
do.
taking a little longer than I'd
Yeah,
like.
yeah, I do. I honestly do. Well, I say I
And
do. Yeah, I'm sat here with a bit of an attitude, but I'm trying to. I'm
I
trying to.
understand. I understand. Totally, totally understand. Uh, and and as long as you stay with it, right, the documentary will come out.
Yeah, and it's like anything. It's just that some things are just not meant to at the time, and it's crazy because right now, with the documentary taking so much longer than it has to, it's allowed breathing space for people that were going to be on the documentary to be chopped out because there is a lot of fakes in our community and a lot of
Please.
misinformation. And what's happened in the time from when I filmed it has been major problems with some of the people that were coming on this documentary. And
So that's brilliant.
it is. I've not really even talked about that with my audience, to be honest. I mean, I am doing another documentary right now, which is looking into someone else in our community that isn't who they say they are. I mean, I never ever thought I'd do that type of documentary, um, but and people say, "Well, why are you doing that?" And I'm like, I don't know. It's just something that just feels right to do. But I mean, I can't answer any more than that, really. And it sounds such a sappy answer, but
No,
um,
no, but Kevin, it's can we stop for just a minute? It's actually not. When you say it feels right to do, that's one of the big um, like how do you know you're on your right path? Like we have to learn. This is a big thing that I'm really passionate about too. But we have to learn to feel our paths because there's too
mm,
much to think about and too much that can jam our circuits as far as the mind goes. So we've got to be able to feel what feels resonant for us, and sometimes we don't know why,
no, no,
but you will
no.
start to know why.
Yet, I mean,
And
I think it's the birth of a news network. But then I think about the news network called the International Spiritual News Network, the ISNN, and I think, oh my God, how the hell am I ever gonna? That just feels like a monster. Do you know what I mean?
I
But
know, but there's possibilities for that
the, the,
that you
the,
don't know about.
no, no, and it's that cloudy period of establishing yourself in a new direction, showing people that actually you do want the truth in this community, and that there is a dark side to this community, and not many people want to face it. And I've touched it, I've tasted it, I've been part of that dark for a while right now when doing this other documentary, not the channeling one. Well, actually, the channeling one actually has turned into be quite. There's actually some serious issues with some people on there right now, with the people that have come forward to me with terrible allegations, and that has been difficult, very difficult. But at the same time, probably it's all weaving into that path of a spiritual news network, because you can't be the light and put someone else in the dark. But at the same time, if you're going to try to do things in the right perspective for your community, you've got to deal with things the right way as well. So everything that's happening to me right now is all leading to that. So that foggy period, yeah, I could go with that, definitely. I could
Well,
go with that.
and I want to commend you for being willing to shed the light in the dark because it actually really needs to be done. And in our community, um, there is a lot that's not as it's presented to be, and it ends up harming people. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but it's true.
You mentioned something else earlier on as well about working with teams, and that sometimes we can't do it all by ourselves. What do you mean by that? I mean, it's obvious what
Okay,
you mean, but just if you can just go into that.
so I always say, it takes a team. In order for me to stay in my brilliance, in my business, or in my work in the world, I can't do everything that's on I create videos. They need to be edited. I have books and things and products. I have clients. I have online programs. I have events that I go do. I'm doing so I have a lot of things. And then I have the next thing I'm already creating. So I have a lot of things, and there's no way that I could have the focus for all of them. Now I'm really good at tech actually, and I'm good at admin stuff, but actually that's what killed me in my yoga center. I was standing in not my highest value gifts. But if I stay in my gifts and then I surround myself with people to do the things that I need to have done on my team, that is their gifts, then we're rolling forward in a place where everybody's, you know, excited. They're bringing their best to the table. Sure, we're going to have challenges and all that, but we aren't meant to do it alone. We are not solo creatures. Babies can't live without being held. There are certain things that are sort of our solo path, but it does take a team to create a big vision. So, like what you were saying, and like, the spiritual news network, which I've got a big light on. it's okay if you can get out of, which you do this anyway, or else you wouldn't create the big projects you do. But if you can get out of, how is this going to happen, and go, okay, this is the download I'm getting. This is and start moving towards that and open up to possibility, because in the realm of possibilities beyond third dimension, there is all possibilities. And when we start to open up more to that, the right people show up, the circumstances happen that support us along the journey. But if you have to know exactly how, when you get the idea, please listen, everyone. If you have to know, you have a big idea. You think anybody who's created anything big in this world, got the ABCDs on how to do all of it? No, it's one step at a time. I'm a big proponent of what I call inspired action. We tune in, we get that inspired action. If you just take that one inspired action a day, your feet keep going in front of each other. You end up there, and you gain momentum, and other people who dovetail with what you're doing, you start to attract those people.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you always think to yourself, well, yeah, it's money. If I had the money, I'd have the leverage to just get some people on board. But it's not like that, is it? Sometimes the leverage is working with you, and people out there actually do want to help you. And we do have a team, be it whatever team that's going to be right now. That will change in the not too distant future. But yeah. I hear you. Do I hear
so
myself?
The money thing, the 3D thing, Kevin, is what you're saying. And I'm really glad you're bringing this up, because I battle this on a daily basis too. Okay, well, here's how we can attack this. We throw so much money at this and this and this and this. And I do, I have a team that I pay and all of that. But that is that's one out of the many possibilities that quantum physics shows us. That's one possibility. And there's so many more that we don't even know about. So the problem is, a lot of times we think we have to know what that possibility is, but that's not necessarily true. If we open up to, okay, here's this bigger vision. I want to create this spiritual news network. I'm not sure how this is going to happen. I know that I'm going to need to align with other people, who want to support this as well. And I know what my first 3 steps are, start going. Because most of the time, I wouldn't have thought of a lot of wonderful things that have happened for me. Last year, my deck of cards won 5 awards plus Product of the Year. My book won 3 awards. For one, the gold was for contemporary spirituality. I had no idea. I mean, my books were nominated for some things, but I had no idea that it would turn out the way it did. And because of that, there's a whole bunch of opportunities that have happened. So there's, and that's just sort of a practice. There's so much more. There's so many more possibilities but if we're in stress, or we're just in our left brain, or yes, we're in stress, then we're running stress hormones, then we are going to stay more in that 3D, like what's right in front of my eyes. And that's going to cut us off. When you tap into your sacred wealth code, these are like your guides as well, your archetypes, parts of you, the best of you that really are there to also keep you on course and give you really good guidance along the way.
Okay. Well, your website's been coming up on the screen throughout the interview, but those listening on the podcast and for this interview as well, your website is?
sacredwealthcode.com.
Okay, so that's where they can find your 2 books, the journal as well.
There's the book, there's the journal, there's the cards. I do sacred wealth code readings. I have several programs. I work one-on-one with people. I do full Vedic astrology readings to look at everything. I help people understand what their purpose is. I help you find your way from the inside out.
Okay. Well, some of that information's been coming up on the screen as well, including your book, including some of the services that you offer as well. I think there's been snapshots of your website coming up on there as well. Yeah, so anyway, for people that want to know more, they can just go to your website. And of course, the book's available from all good bookstores, including obviously Amazon as well. And that's available now.
It is available now, yes.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you for the time that you've given us right now, and for sharing some of your work with my audience. And I'm sure our paths will cross in the future as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. It's really been a pleasure. I appreciate you having me.